Dungeons and Coffee.
Greetings.
Welcome to part 2. Here's the tower, and as you can see, the only changes I've made since the last video is I've just painted everything black except for the balcony. I just stained that with one of my wood stains I made with some watered down paint. I show how to do that in a previous video. You can backtrack and look that up if you like. We'll try a little experiment here. This is a picture. It's just a copy of an old picture. A lot of interesting earth tones on there. And on the back it's just nice and white. And it's pretty thick paper. Pretty good quality stuff. So I've got a stack of these I've had for years, so I'm just going to use this for an experiment and see what happens. Alrighty, getting a little trouble here, but I'll just fix it. This is the whimsical roof, therefore I'm just going to have whimsical roof tiles, so I'm not really worried about all that. It'll all come out in the wash, literally, which I'll explain later. Alright, so the next step, as you can see here, is I took this stuff, alright, I cut off a strip about that big, and I kind of went around the edges and did this. I just kind of bent it, forcing a little space between the cuts, right? And by doing that, you're making the paper more flexible and workable, but you're also making a strip of shingles, which makes it much faster than if you're just doing individual shingles one at a time. So that's the trick I've used. So I'm going to apply all these to the roof and then we'll come back. This looks a little weird right now, but the reason is all I did was put some glue on top of my little pile of sand, and it was oozing nice and slow over to this side. It was pooling over and collecting over here. And so what I did is I poured a little bit of water in that area, and so that's why it looks kind of weird, but all it is just glue poured over top of my sand and then some water over here. And the reason I did it that way is I'm going to mix it as I go. That way it'll be easy to keep it really thin or thicken it up depending on where I need it and what's going on at the moment. As you apply the mixture, it's going to look something like this. And really that's great, because really all you're going for here, the only reason you're doing this is because you want that grain. You want the grainy look. That sand is really going to look great when it's painted, and then those bricks underneath is really going to plaster it up. Okay, at this stage of the game, you're ready to start painting. So, if you can see what I'm doing here is I'm just spotting the bricks that stick out so that they'll show once I paint and do all the washes. And I went ahead and did a little base color on the door while I had the brown out, the lighter brown. Alright, as you can see here, we just used some pale yellow. I mixed some white in there just so it would have some streaks in it. Some swirls, and we added some water, and we just kind of, it's almost a wash but not quite, but very thin. We went over that black, and as you can see I avoided the brown stones, and the reason I did that is because when we put the final wash on there, that's going to blend those in a little better, and it'll give it some of that stucco look. So that's what we have so far. Alright, well, I applied a wash over top of that, and I did some streaking. I let it do some natural dripping, and then I just kind of faked a little bit of it, but I don't know, my plan was to put another layer another wash over top of that, but I'm not so sure if I want to do that. Alright, I couldn't resist, so I did put one more wash on there. And the way I did this last one though, yeah, I like how that blends in really well. The way I did the last one, instead of just putting it on liberally and just allowing it to drip, I did a little of that, but I did a lot more dabbing as well. So I didn't let it drip too much. I want it to look splotchy, runny paint, old mold, things like that. So there we go. That's a little closer. I think I'd better stop there before I go too far. Alright, well, as you can see here, we have this set up for a typical gaming scenario. I have a few odds and ends set around here just to show off what it can look like with your other terrain, and also so we can contrast and see how it's going to look if you remove the terrain and you just have it on a typical battle map. In that kind of situation, we can see how that looks also. So, there you have it. That's our completed tower. Now, we're going to go back later, perhaps, and put a base on this, but that's okay. As it stands now, it is a complete project. So we can just kind of look at it there and see how that's going to look from different angles, depending on your desire or your need. As you can see, we have some raggy curtains blowing out of the windows there. And that's the gist of it.
Remember, keep your books off the table and keep reaching for the dice.